හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Saturday, the 20th of January 2024. Presidential update. President Wickremesinghe meets multiple world leaders at the Non-Aligned Summit and inks a new MOU with a new territory. Mischief makers. 66 CEB employees who flouted their duty to disrupt daily routine have been interdicted so far, with more investigations underway. IMF concerns. IMF chief to Sri Lanka stresses attention on the financially vulnerable and stressed the IMF's partnership with the government to address those concerns.
What was very important to us is that the people who have no means, who are left behind, actually do get the needs that they require.
Unsafe safety. Opposition leader Premadasa requests that the online safety bills debate be postponed further in a bid to make more amendments to it.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you to AdaDerana, Saturday's edition of First at 9. This is Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at the news for the evening, starting with our top story right now. On the sidelines of the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit, President Ranil Wickremesinghe engaged in bilateral discussions with various leaders and representatives of the Global South countries in the African region yesterday. He also met with the Minister of External Affairs in India, S. Jaishankar, as well as the Prime Minister of Nepal, Pushpa Kamal Dahal today, as proceedings continue today in Uganda. Meanwhile, today, Sri Lankan Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Benin, Olusegun Ajadi Bakari, signed a memorandum of understanding to allow diplomatic officials and service passport holders visa exemption for a 30-day stay without prior application. The 19th summit of the Non-Aligned Movement Group of Nations is currently underway in Uganda's capital, Kampala. During his visit to Kampala, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has thus far participated in bilateral discussions with various leaders and representatives from the Global South countries yesterday. Coinciding with the conference, President Ranil Wickremesinghe met his South African counterpart, President Cyril Ramaphosa, last afternoon. Following a warm welcome, the two leaders actively engaged in bilateral discussions. President Wickremesinghe also met with the Prime Minister of Tanzania, Kassim Majaliwa, and engaged in bilateral talks during proceedings. Meanwhile, participating in significant bilateral discussions, President Wickremesinghe also met with the Bahamas Prime Minister, Philip E. Davis, yesterday. As these meetings transpired on the sidelines of the Non-Aligned Movement Summit yesterday, a landmark bilateral discussion took place between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Vice President of the West African Republic of Benin, Mariam Shabi Thalata. According to the President's media division, discussions revolved around advancing economic and trade connections between the two economies. Highlighting investment opportunities for the local apparel industry in the Republic of Benin, Vice President Thalata encouraged President Ranil Wickremesinghe to guide local investors in their respective direction. Simultaneously, both nations today signed a memorandum of understanding on visa exemptions for diplomatic, official and service passport holders, which allow a 30-day stay without the application of a prior visa. Accordingly, the agreement was signed by Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Benin, Olusegun Ajadi Bakari. The PMD meanwhile added that President Wickremesinghe extended an invitation to the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Benin to make an official visit to Sri Lanka in the near future to explore economic possibilities and elevate bilateral relations. In a similar development, President Ranil Wickremesinghe also engaged in discussions with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, yesterday during the Non-Aligned Movement Summit. During the meeting, the two leaders discussed advancing economic relations between the two nations while also exploring potential areas for new investment. Concurrently, Minister of External Affairs in India, S. Jaishankar, also met with President Wickremesinghe today. Following the meeting, the Indian Minister of External Affairs appreciated President Wickremesinghe's continued guidance for the development of the bilateral initiatives and added that India's commitment is reflected via the Neighbourhood First and SEGA policy. President Ranil Wickremesinghe also met Prime Minister of Nepal, Pushpa Kamal Dahal, today. During the extensive deliberations, the two leaders raised concerns on promoting cultural and religious ties which have long existed between both territories and further emphasized the potential for boosting tourism. IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Peter Brewer, stressed the importance of the government's attention to ensure that allocations done under the Social Safety Programme will be properly dispensed to vulnerable people in the country that struggle with financial difficulties. Joining an exclusive interview on at Hyde Park with Indivari Amawata, Brewer, commenting on the social welfare program currently implemented in the country, said that the IMF is aware of the issue in the system, but assured that local authorities are currently taking measures to address them. IMF resident representatives in Sri Lanka, Dr. Sarwat Jahan, who also joined the program, says that the poverty level of the country has doubled due to the financial unrest, and it is important that the reforms continue to create more jobs, opportunities for the people in the coming future.
I think you've also witnessed Sri Lanka's progress in terms of the social safety net and other steps and initiatives taken. So is the IMF satisfied with the progress made in this sense?
First of all, what was very important to us is that the people who have no means, who are left behind, actually do get the need that they require, especially at a time when on the fiscal side there's strong consolidation. So we agreed with the authorities on a minimum spend from the government on social protection programs, and that is something that has been carried over from 2023 to 2024, and we will continue in the years ahead. Further, there has been this significant reform in the social welfare program to make sure that those who most need support receive it, and that those who don't take resources that should be geared towards those who most need it. Yes, we are aware of some teething issues in this transition. We've discussed that with the authorities, and they are working on ironing these out.
If we talk about the broader picture in terms of unemployment and IMF's view on this, what have you discussed with authorities, and what would you urge authorities to address immediately to better the program's implementation and for a more sustainable recovery of the economy?
We do see the hardship of the people in Sri Lanka, not only in Colombo, but through our visits to the northern province and the eastern provinces, where when we met the people, they talked about how their incomes are now much less, but costs are higher. So they're looking for ways to cope with the crisis, and they hope for a better future for Sri Lanka. As Peter had mentioned, one of the core pillars of this program is to protect the poor and the vulnerable. During our first discussions, we had discussed a floor, a minimum floor on social spending for 4 major cash transfers, and in the last year's budget, that was about 187 billion rupees. We had ensured that for the budget in 2024, it grows with inflation, so this year would be approximately around 205 billion rupees. The authorities have worked on a better social registry so that there is better targeting, because it's not only the amount of cash that is being transferred that matters. What does matter is the people who need it get the cash transfers. So there is a dynamic social registry, and people should continue to apply if they feel they deserve these cash transfers, because there will be continuous data validation. We understand that this crisis is very different. I mean, some of the reports that we've seen says that poverty levels in Sri Lanka has doubled from 13% to around 25 to 26%. Unemployment is high, and that's why we think it is important to stay the course on the program. It is important to keep that recovery on track, because only when we have recovery, only when this nascent growth is really entrenched, will there be more investment to Sri Lanka, more jobs creation, and then we'll be truly out of this crisis.
A total of more than 51 employees of the Ceylon Electricity Board were interdicted today for obstructing the services by refusing to accept bill payments from consumers during the protest staged against the proposed restructuring of the state-owned electricity supplier. With the 15 who were interdicted yesterday, 66 employees in total have thus far been interdicted by the CEB management. Yesterday, steps were taken by the Ceylon Electricity Board to interdict 15 employees for disrupting services during the 3-day protest that was launched by members of the Ceylon Electricity Board trade union in order to express their objections over the restructure of the state electricity supplier, the new electricity bill, and the CEB's management decision to cancel the leave of all its employees. The CEB further stated that the employees in question, who are clerical staff members in charge of the cash counters, had obstructed and inconvenienced customers who had come to pay their bills by closing off the counters. The interdictions were made upon the instructions of Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijayasekara, who advised the CEB management to suspend certain employees and take appropriate disciplinary action against employees who disrupted services or violated guidelines against a backdrop where electricity-related services were designated as essential services through a Gazette notification by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. 51 more employees were interdicted today by the CEB management, raising the total count of interdicted employees thus far to 66.
අතිවිශේෂ ගැසට් පත්‍රයක් නිකුත් කරලා තිනවා විදුලිය අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවයක් කළා. එතකොට යුනියන් හඳුන්වා දුන්නේ කැමපැයි පිකට් එකක් පමණයි. ඒක උන්ගේ අයිතියක්. ඒකට නමුදු ඒ අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවාව කරගන්න බැරි කරලා ඊට අමතරව මණ්ඩලයට ලැබිය යුතු මූල්‍යමය වාසි අහිමි කළා තමයි මෙතනට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. මුදල් කවුරු වහලා එන්න කවුරුත් තීරණය කළා තිබ්බේ නැහැ. ඒ පසුබිම යටතේ තමයි ඒ ගැසට් පත්‍රය සහ නිවාඩුව අවලංගු කිරීමේ චක්‍රලේඛය පදනම් කරගෙන වැඩතහනම් කිරීම සිදු කරේ. ඒක තමයි මූලික කාරණා. අනිකුත් සේවකයන් ගැන කතා කරද්දී එවන විට පාලනාධිකාරිය කටයුතු කරමින් යනවා. අනිකුත් සියලුම සේවකයන්ගෙන් නිදහසට කාරණා විමසන්න. ප්‍රශ්නේ තියෙන්නේ ක්‍රිකට් එක කරපු එක නෙවෙයි. නිවාඩු අවලංගු කර තිබෙන්නේ නිවාඩු දමලා කොහොමද ආවේ කියන එක. මොකද සික් ලීව් එකක් දැම්මත් ඒක මේ ඔෆිස් එක 100ක් ඉන්නවන් 100ම සික් වෙන්න බෑනේ.
Meanwhile, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara stated that 66% of the interest component on loans obtained by CEB employees privately, amounting to around 12 billion rupees, have been reimbursed by the CEB. He stated that this came to light following a report prepared by the CEB pertaining to the credit facilities obtained by its employees. Following this development, the minister instructed the CEB management to set up a mechanism to recover those funds from the employees who obtained loans. The Cardinal has proclaimed that on the upcoming 5th anniversary of the Easter Sunday attack in April, the names of all those who died during the attack will be canonized into sainthood. He made this statement yesterday during the evening service at St. Sebastian's National Shrine in Kandana. The evening service for the annual feast of the St. Sebastian National Shrine in Kandana was held yesterday under the Archbishop of Colombo, Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith.
අවුරුද්දේ අප්‍රේල් මාසේ 21 වෙනිදාට අපේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය සිදු වෙලා අවුරුදු 5ක් සම්පූර්ණයි. ඒ නිසා අපි කොළඹ අගරාදුගුරු පදවිය තුල තීරණයක් ගත්තා. මේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරයට ගොදුරු වෙලා මරණයට පත්වෙච්ච අපේ සහෝදර සහෝදරියන් 273 දෙනා වෙනුවෙන් ඔවුන්ව සුද්ධාසනයට ඔවුන්ගේ නම් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නට ඔවුන් සියලු දෙනාම සාන්තුවරයට ඔසවන්න කියලා. වීරෝදාර විශ්වාසය වෙනුවෙන් දේවස්ථානයට ආව නිසායි ඔවුන් මැරුණේ. ඔවුන් දේවස්ථානයට එන්නේ නැතුව ගෙදරට වෙලා හිටියානම් එහෙම මැරෙන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් ඔවුන් පල්ලියට ඇවිල්ලා පල්ලියේ පාසු දේව මෙහෙයට සහභාගී වෙන්නට ආපු නිසා ජීවිතය පූජා කළා. ඒ නිසා අපි ඒ අයව විශ්වාසය තුළ ජීවිතය පූජා කළ සහෝදර සහෝදරියන් පිරිසක් ලෙස ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරන්නට සූදානම් වෙනවා මේ අවුරුද්දේ අප්‍රේල් මාසේ 21 වෙනිදා. අපි කාටවත් බය වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. අපිට බය වෙන්න ඕනේ වෙනවා නම් බය වෙන්න වෙන්නේ අපිටමයි.
In other news, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says that he has requested the Speaker of Parliament Mahinda Yapa Abewardena to not debate the online safety bill, which is expected to be tabled for the second reading in Parliament on the 22nd of January. In a statement, the opposition leader said that the bill requires further amendments following discussions.
විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ අනපනත් ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ විභාගයට ලකුණු අවස්ථාවේ ඒ අනපනත් වල කොටස් වලින් 50%කටත් වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් විශේෂ බහුතරයකින් සම්මත කරගත යුතු බවට ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය තීන්දුව කරලා තිබෙනවා. මේ අනපනත් සම්මත වූහොත් මේ රටේ පොදු ජනතාවගේ තමන්ගේ මූලික අයිතිවාසිකම් අමුවේ උල්ලංඝනය වෙන පනතක් හැටියට අපිට මේ පනත හඳුන්වන්නට පුළුවන්. මේ අනපනත් දෙක විවාදයට භාජනය නොකොට තවදුරටත් සාකච්ඡා කොට සිදුවිය යුතු වැදගත් සංශෝධන සියල්ලක්ම පාහේ සිදු කරමින් මේ අනපනත් ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණයට ලක් කිරීම සුදුසුයයි මම කතානායකවරයාට යෝජනා කරමින් ලිපියකින් දැනුම් දුන්නා.
Leader of the Maubima Janata Party, Dilip Jayavira, says that Sri Lanka lacks a national policy to protect farmlands in the village. Addressing a gathering in Kurunegala, Jayavira said that Sri Lanka has lost the value that was earlier given to agriculture.
The program Vavata Panak Saturu commenced recently at the Hatuvawa in Galgamur with the participation of leader of Maubima Janata Party, Dilip Jayavira. This project is expected to dredge 10 small-sized lakes under its first phase.
ප්‍රධානතම කර්මාන්තයේ කුෂිකර්මාන්තයට ලැබිය යුතු තැන නොලැබී ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. අපේ මනසිනුත් මේක ගිලිහි ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. දැන් මේ වැව් මෙහෙම ගොඩ වෙනකොට රජයේ පැත්තෙන් ගත්තොත් හරි ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් හැටියට ගත්තොත් හරි මේක ඊටාම සුළු ආයෝජනයකින් විසඳිය හැකි ප්‍රශ්නයක්. නමුත් මේකට ඒ අවධානය ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකට අවධානය නොලැබෙන්නේ අපි පටලවාගෙන තියෙනවා මේ කුෂිකර්මාන්තයේ තියෙන වැදගත්කම. එනේන රජයන් දහසකුත් දෙක කතා කරනවා. විවිධ නව කර්මාන්ත ගේන්න, විවිධ විදේශ ආයෝජන ගේන්න කතා කරනවා. හැබැයි මේ ගමේ තියෙන කුමුර ගමේ තියෙන වතු පිටි බලා ගන්නට අපිට ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් නැහැ. මේවා කතා කළ යුතු දේවල්ද? ඇත්තම කිව්වොත් නැහැ. හැබැයි කතා කරන්න වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒක හේතු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ අපි ඔක්කොම පිටපට පටලවා ගත්ත සමාජ දේහයක්, දේශපාලනික දේහයක් මේ රටේ තියෙනවා.
Minister of Urban Development Prasanna Ranatunga says that only a candidate with the support of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana party stands to win the upcoming presidential election. Meanwhile, Samagi Jana Balavegia legislator Ranjit Madhuma Bandara says that the SJB does not have any competition as all other parties have failed.
ලෝක ඉස්සරහා විශාල අපකීර්තියට පත්වෙච්ච රටක් අපි. අපිට වීසා දෙන්නේ නැහැ. වීසා නෙමෙයි මම දන්නා කොරියන් එම්බසි එකෙන් අපොයින්ට්මන්ට් එකක් ගන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ වීසා ඉල්ලුම් පත්‍රේ බාර දෙන මාස 6ක් යනවා. අපි ගණන් ගන්න නැහැ ලෝකේ. ලොක්කා යනවා ජනාධිපති හින්දා. එනවනේ ආපු පුටි වාඩි වෙන්න. ඒ හින්දා දෙන්නේ නැත්තම් ඒ දෙන්නේ නැති වෙයි.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතා රටවල් වලට යන්නේ මේ රටට යම්කිසි ආධාරයක් හෝ සහනයක් ගන්න වැඩ පිළිවෙලකට ඒගොල්ලෝ යන්නේ මොකටද? සල්ලි එවන්න එපා කියන්නයි රට අරාජික කරන්නයිනේ. පොහොට්ටුවේ සහයෝගය ලැබෙන පුද්ගලෙක් තමයි මේ රටේ අනාගතයේ ජනාධිපති වෙන්නේ.
පොහොට්ටුවෙන් කියන්නේ පොහොට්ටු සහයෝගයක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතා කරලා නැහැ කියලා පක්ෂයේ මේ තමයි
තීන්දුව කරලා නැහැ කියන එක යාට දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන එකයි දෙකයිනේ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ පටලවා ගන්න එපා.
පක්ෂය තමයි අන්තිම තීන්දුව ගත යුත්තේ. පුද්ගලික මතවල කිසිම වටිනාකමක් නැහැ. අනිවාර්යෙන් පොහොට්ටුවේ අපේක්ෂක තමයි වෙන පාරක් ජනාධිපති වෙන්නේ.
මට පේන්නේ නැහැ කිසිම අභියෝගයක් තියෙයි කියලා. අද පොහොට්ටුවත් වැටිලා සජාතික පක්ෂයත් වැටිලා ජනතා විමුක්තිය වෙනුවෙන් හැමදාම වැටිලා හිටියේ.
සමගි ජන බලවේගයේ සහ මේ එහි නායකයා ගැන අපිට තියෙන කනගාටුවක් තියෙන්නේ. රස්තියාදු ගහන දේශපාලඥයෝ අහුලමින් ඉන්නේ කුණු එකතු කරමින් ඉන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ. මිනිස්සුන්ගේ කැටෙත් කඩලා තමයි දැන් ජීවත් වෙන්නේ මිනිස්සු ඇත්තගත. ඒ නිසා ළමයින්ගේ කැටේ කඩන තත්ත්වයට පත් කරපුවා ඒගොල්ලෝ. එහෙම කරලා තමයි අපෙන් අහන්නේ කැට හොල්ලාද කියලා මේව කරන්නේ. කැට හොල්ලන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. අපි හිතනවා අපේ රටේ මේ දින සම්පත් ටික කළමනාකරණය කරලා අපිට මේ අර්බුදෙන් ගොඩ යන්න පුළුවන් ලේසි. ඒක සජබේ නායකින්ට ඇහෙන්නේ නැති එක, ඇහුණට තේරෙන්නේ නැති එකට අපිට කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. අපිට තියෙන්නේ කනගාටුයි මහත්තුරුනි කියලා කියන්න තමයි.
The two police officers involved in the accidental shooting of a 41-year-old lorry driver in the Narammala area have been interdicted. The family of the deceased was provided with a compensation of 1 million rupees by the Acting Inspector General of Police, Deshabandhu Thennakon. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan Navy apprehended a local multi-day fishing trawler carrying a cache of heroin weighing over 65 kilograms, believed to be more than 1.6 billion rupees in worth. With that, here's a look at more news from across the island in brief. A 41-year-old lorry driver succumbed to injuries shortly after being shot by a firearm during a police vehicle inspection recently. Per latest developments, the police sub-inspector and the constable in charge of the accidental shooting were reportedly interdicted, while the sub-inspector in question was subsequently arrested and remanded until the 23rd of January, following the orders of the Narammala Magistrates Court. The family of the deceased was provided with a compensation of 1 million rupees by the Acting Inspector General of Police, Deshabandhu Thennakon, following the incident. In the meantime, officers of the Police Narcotics Bureau recovered more than 2.2 million rupees delicately hidden at a residence in Udugampula, belonging to a close associate of the organised criminal Ganemulla Sanjeeva. A 29-year-old woman residing in the house was arrested by the police. In other news, following a tip received by the Sri Lankan Navy, a local multi-day fishing trawler carrying a large cache of heroin was taken into custody. Accordingly, the street value of the heroin consignment, weighing over 65 kilograms, was appraised to be worth more than 1.6 billion rupees. Along with the seized fishing trawler, a total of 11 suspects were also arrested. The 11 suspects, along with the seized fishing trawler, were handed over to the custody of the Police Narcotics Bureau for forward legal action. A review meeting to discuss the progress of the Pico Trail project, aimed at boosting local tourism, was held yesterday at the President's office under the patronage of Senior Advisor to the President on National Security and Chief of Presidential Staff, Sagala Ratnayaka. During the meeting yesterday, the Pico Trail team outlined their plans for the project, emphasizing the construction of a 300-kilometer tourist trail, which is poised to significantly support the advancement of the tea industry in Sri Lanka. In the meantime, the team further highlighted the significance of the project in expanding the nation's appeal as a tourist destination, while highlighting the potential to attract more tourists to the country. Underscoring President Wickremesinghe's keen interest on the project, Sagala Ratnayaka urged for a collaborative effort to address legal and other challenges that have arisen during the project's implementation. He further advised respective officials to engage with representatives from local estate companies and relevant line agencies to resolve issues and ensure the success of the Pico Trail project. Lanka Credit and Business Finance in its quarterly report said that its profits for the December 2023 quarter grew by 57%. With that, let's take a look at the corporate sector news for the day. Lanka Credit and Business Finance said that its profits for the December quarter in 2023 grew by 57% to 47.4 million rupees, mainly due to the increase in operating profits of the firm. In its quarterly report, Lanka Credit and Business Finance said that its revenue had increased by 12%, amounting to 345.4 million rupees. However, due to the increase in interest expenses, net interest income had gone down by 6% to 162 million rupees and total operating profit had increased by 10% to 199 million rupees. Diversified conglomerate Sunshine Holdings plc at its board meeting on the 18th of January announced the appointment of Shyam Satyasivam as its Group Chief Executive Officer. Shyam held the position of Managing Director of the subsidiaries Sunshine Healthcare Lanka Limited and Sunshine Consumer Lanka Limited. With over 21 years of corporate experience, Shyam is a committee member of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the former president of the Sri Lanka Chamber of Pharmaceuticals Industry. In other news, Chief Executive Officer, General Manager of People's Leasing and Finance, Shawindra J. M. Marceline, has notified his intention to resign from his position with effect from the 1st of April 2024 in order to pursue his future career plans. The firm issuing a statement said that the notice of resignation had been accepted by both the Nomination and Government Committee and by the Board of Directors of the company. That's all the news for this evening. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Have a safe and blessed Sunday ahead. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.